Welcome to another episode of Ship of War, my review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is directed by Mark Webb. It stars Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, Jamie Foxx, Day DeHaan, and a bunch of other very talented actors and actresses. Now, the premise of this story follows the events of The Amazing Spider-Man, the first installment, and the same conflicts that Peter Parker had in that film kind of transitions into this movie when it comes to his relationship with Gwen Stacy and just his overall thing with his situation of being Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man, the first film, I absolutely despise that movie. I had the worst experience watching that film. I really did not like it. There was so many issues with that movie to the point that I had no interest in seeing this movie whatsoever in theaters or in general. The main reason why I went to go see this movie was because I had a friend who came into town from New York who wanted to go see it with me. I can go into all the negatives in this movie, but basically you can watch my review for The Amazing Spider-Man and my issues with that film, and you can basically roll over a lot of it into this movie. There's a lot of things about this movie that I really liked that I thought were improvements to the first film. I actually made a list of those things, and those are the things I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about the negative stuff. I'm just going to talk about the positive things that I liked about this movie. The first thing I want to talk about is the suit, something that I already saw from the trailers. I think the suit in this movie is a million times better looking appearance-wise than the suit from the first movie. I thought the suit from the first movie just looked horrendous. It looked like a basketball, like the same material of a basketball. It just didn't look very appealing visually, and this suit, I just love the way it looked on screen. Hans Zimmer actually produced the music for this movie, so this movie actually has a score that's rememberable. The first movie, I don't even think it had a score, and if it did, I didn't remember anything of it. I just remember hearing a one piano key over and over and over during certain scenes, while this movie actually had a score and several scores that I actually really liked. I thought the visual effects for this movie were a million times better than the first film. There were so many things visually in the first film that just looked so unfinished and just bad overall, especially when the lizard. While this movie, I thought Electro looked really cool with the way he looked CGI'd and everything. There's no longer the dark and gritty look. My biggest issue with The Amazing Spider-Man, the first film, was like it almost felt like they wanted to do the whole Batman thing and make it dark and gritty and have Spider-Man save people during the nighttime, which he was doing mainly of throughout that movie, and I didn't like that because that wasn't Spider-Man to me. He is a character that's around 24/7 if he has to be, and this movie visually was very colorful and it was more lively in comparisons to the first film, which I really liked because it reminded me of Spider-Man, and I think a Spider-Man movie needs to be lively and colorful, and this movie did that, and I really, really liked that about the film. Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker's relationship in this movie was much more believable. In the first film, I didn't buy it. I didn't think they had a lot of chemistry, while in this film, I felt it. I felt like the two characters had chemistry. I believed their relationship. I believed that they actually really liked each other. The other thing that I really liked about this movie is Peter and Aunt May's scenes. They had a couple of scenes in the movie that felt actually sweet and heartfelt. I didn't feel that in the first film with Peter, with his Uncle Ben, or with Aunt May. While in this movie, there's one particular scene that I really felt that emotional connection between the two characters, and I felt it as an audience member, so I really liked that they actually made you feel something for these two characters and their relationship on screen. And the last thing I want to give props to this movie is the comedy. The first movie had comedy, but I never laughed during the first movie during any of the funny scenes, while in this movie, I caught myself laughing out loud. At least during 3 different occasions, I actually laughed out loud during scenes that were actually supposed to be funny. So that's really good because I wasn't expecting to actually have an emotion like laughter during watching this movie in a positive sense. I felt like I wasn't going to review this movie because I thought I was going to be completely negative, and again, because of the fact I liked those certain things as much as I did, I've decided to do a review just to focus on the positive and not the negative towards the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, I guess I should suggest that you go check it out and form your own opinion on the film. So that is my semi-review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. Stage Fright is directed by Jerome Stavel. It stars Minnie Driver, Meatloaf, and Alec McDonald. Now the premise of this